Once upon a time, in a sleepy forest down under, there lived a little koala named Kiki. The forest was a tranquil haven where the leaves rustled gently in the breeze and the air was filled with the sweet scent of eucalyptus leaves. It was a place of peace and quiet, where time seemed to stand still and the hustle and bustle of the world outside seemed a million miles away. In this serene sanctuary, Kiki had her own little corner. She spent her days nestled high up in the eucalyptus trees, munching on leaves and taking long, leisurely naps in the warm Australian sun. Life was simple and slow for Kiki, just the way koalas like it. Kiki was a jovial little koala, always greeting the forest creatures with a warm, fuzzy smile. Her heart was as soft as her fur, and she was loved by all who knew her. Kiki was a happy little koala, but she had one big worry. You see, Kiki had a great fear of climbing trees. In the vast, lush forest where Kiki the koala lived, this was a peculiar worry to have. Trees were a koala's home, their playground, and their dining room. However, for Kiki, trees were towering giants that made her heart flutter with fear. Every day, Kiki watched her friends scamper up and down the bark, their laughter echoing through the forest. She longed to join them, to feel the breeze rustling her fur high above the ground, to reach out and pluck the juiciest leaves right off the branches. But every time she tried to climb, her nerves got the better of her, and she'd scurry back down, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. And so, Kiki spent most of her days on the forest floor, her eyes always cast upwards. She felt a pang of sadness each time she saw the sun set through the high branches, its golden light a world she could only dream of. But Kiki was a determined little koala. She knew that her fear was holding her back, and she was resolved to conquer it. Every day she would stand at the base of a tree, her tiny paws pressed against the rough bark, imagining herself climbing higher and higher. Her friends, seeing her struggle, rallied around her. They cheered her on, their voices a chorus of encouragement. "You can do it, Kiki," they would call out, their words like a warm hug. They shared their tree climbing tips, showed her the best routes up the trunk, and even held climbing races to help her practice. Kiki was grateful for their support. She knew she was lucky to have friends who understood her fear and were there to help her overcome it. Every day she tried a little harder, climbed a little higher, and with each small victory, her confidence grew. Despite her fear, Kiki had a heart full of hope and a forest full of friends who believed in her. One sunny day, Kiki decided it was time to face her fear. The little koala had always been scared of heights, but today she felt a surge of courage. It was time for her to conquer her fears and climb her very first tree. The tree was tall, its branches reaching out toward the sky like a giant's fingers. But Kiki was undeterred. She placed her tiny paws on the rough bark of the tree, and with a deep breath, began her ascent. Her heart pounded in her chest like a drum, but she pushed on, determined to reach the top. Up she went, one paw after the other. The wind blew gently, rustling the leaves around her. She could hear the chirping of the birds above and the rustling of the leaves below. She paused for a moment, looking down at the ground that seemed so far away now. A wave of fear washed over her, but she shook it off, reminding herself of her goal. Kiki continued her climb, her paws gripping the bark tighter. She was halfway up now. She could see the tops of other trees, their leaves dancing in the wind. The sun was high in the sky, its rays filtering through the leaves, casting a dappled light on her fur. The climb was getting harder. Her paws were sore, and her muscles ached, but she had come too far to give up now. She pushed on, her determination stronger than her fear. She could see the top of the tree now, just a few more branches away. With one final push, Kiki reached out for the last branch. She pulled herself up, her heart pounding in her chest. And then, she was there. She had done it. She had climbed her first tree. She looked around, taking in the view from the top. The forest stretched out before her, a sea of green under the blue sky. With a deep breath, Kiki reached out for the last branch, and she did it. She had climbed her first tree. Her heart was full of joy and pride. She had faced her fear, and she had won. She was no longer the scared little koala. She was Kiki, the brave tree climber. The forest was full of cheers and applause for brave little Kiki. The air was alive with the sound of jubilation, as creatures big and small had gathered to honor Kiki's courage. The whispers of leaves swaying in the wind echoed the animals' joy, and the forest seemed to sparkle with an unseen magic. The trees rustled with excitement, and the chorus of cheers from the forest's inhabitants filled the air with a symphony of celebration. Squirrels chattered in delight, their tails twitching in rhythm with their words of praise. The birds sang sweet melodies high above, their songs forming a canopy of happiness over the forest. Even the brook babbled happily, its clear waters reflecting the moonlight and the joyous occasion. At the heart of it all was Kiki, the little koala who had dared to climb higher than any of them had ever dreamed. Her heart was full to bursting with happiness and relief. Her eyes sparkled brighter than the stars above, reflecting the pride and joy she felt inside. The animals of the forest cheered for her, their voices carrying her name through the treetops. "Kiki! Kiki!" they chanted, their words a testament to her bravery. The praise washed over Kiki, warming her like the sun's rays. She felt a glow inside her, a warmth that spread from her heart and filled her entire being. She had done it. She had faced her fear, climbed the tallest tree, and proved to herself and everyone else that she was capable of so much more than she had ever imagined. The celebration continued long into the night, the forest alive with joy and laughter. The trees seemed to sway in time with the music, their leaves rustling in celebration. And there, high above them all, Kiki sat in the highest branch of her tree. She looked out over the forest, her heart filled with happiness and pride. That night, Kiki fell asleep in the highest branch of her tree, proud and content. The sounds of the celebration still echoed in her dreams, a sweet reminder of the bravery she had shown and the love she had earned from her forest friends. From that day forward, Kiki was no longer afraid of climbing trees. Her little koala heart was full of courage. Her eyes sparkled with newfound confidence, and her spirit was buoyant with the joy of overcoming her fear. The trees were no longer intimidating giants, but welcoming towers of adventure and fun. Kiki's transformation was not just physical, but mental and emotional too. She learned that bravery was not about being fearless, but about facing those fears and overcoming them. Every tree she climbed, every leaf she touched, every branch she swung on was a testament to her bravery. It was a bravery born not out of recklessness, but out of determination and the will to overcome her fears. However, Kiki's journey was not a solitary one. Along her path, she was accompanied by her forest friends who cheered her on, gave her strength when she was weak, and celebrated her victories. They were her rock, her support system, her cheer squad. They taught her that even the smallest creature can make a big difference, and that every step taken in courage is a step towards victory. And so, Kiki's life was filled with joy and laughter, adventure and learning. Each day was a new opportunity to explore, to learn, to grow. The forest was her classroom, and every tree, every leaf, every creature was a teacher. She discovered that life was not just about the destination, but also about the journey. It was about the challenges faced, the lessons learned, and the friendships forged along the way. Kiki's story is not just about a koala overcoming her fear of climbing trees. It's about bravery, determination, and the power of friendship. It's about finding the courage within oneself, pushing beyond one's limits, and realizing that with a little help from friends, any obstacle can be overcome. And so, Kiki learned that with courage, perseverance, and a little help from her friends, she could accomplish anything. And so can we, if we put our mind to it and believe in ourselves. Kiki's story is a lesson for all of us, a lesson of courage, perseverance, and the power of friendship. Now, every night, Kiki climbs her favorite tree, gazes at the stars, and falls asleep peacefully. Her heart no longer beats with fear, but with a newfound love for the heights she once dreaded. The tree, once a towering obstacle, is now her safe haven, her own little world among the leaves and stars. As she nestles into her favorite branch, She takes one last look at her friends in the forest below, their supportive smiles a comforting reminder of her journey. She's learnt that with courage, determination, and a little help from her friends, she can overcome any obstacle that comes her way. Every night, as she drifts off to a peaceful slumber, she dreams of her next adventure, her next climb. She dreams of how she will rise again, reach out for the stars, and conquer her fears one tree at a time. And so, the little koala who once feared climbing trees, now sleeps among the stars. Good night, Kiki, and good night, everyone. Subscribe to this channel, share the enchantment with friends, and stay tuned for more. Don't miss the next adventure.